a Slooky dog, an aardvark, a giraffe, a donkey, a wolf, a fox. Perhaps all of these factored into what is called the set animal. And of course, we can combine this with the human being because this is just the big old mask that it's wearing up top its head, right? There are other forms taken on by Set, but Set is the entity that will serve as this political example, and it will serve as such in the next program or two of this particular Egyptian political. There are different beings that are said to be of Set, which is sort of the equivalent of the devil. The celestial and terrestrial spirits of Set are the Yaksui, Sut, Hrui, Haru, Xru. And perhaps to be such, they have to take the mark of Set, which is Yab We. And this mark of Set, we can compare this to, as you see in Tanakh, how you see the Shema. So their testimony of faith is seen on their hands, their doorpost, their fence post, middle of their forehead, that sort of thing. But there's the psychological and spiritual mark too. Some people can see in people's auras certain things that they've taken on spiritually. Another thing that we may look at is a name, just like in the Thoth program. There are things about Set that are also said about Yahweh in Tanakh. And remember that passage that says, no more call me Baal, because Baal got associated with these ideas of a son of God and that sort of stuff. So don't call me Baal, but call me Yashi. So Yash or Masha is set as Typhon, the jackal. And perhaps I said wolf, but I meant jackal. And Bari is equivalent to Baal. So we're taking both sides here. And perhaps just Ba or Ba-a-bur. So of the chase or war. Most wars, we can look at most wars nowadays and say, hey, that's not a just war. Virtually all wars you can condemn by basic religious principles. So who is bringing out war? We have War Haka'u and Set of the enchantments or words of power. And that is something definitely that the demons and Satan in particular are famous for, is the treating causing humans to even treat the words themselves as gods that are necessary for this or that. Bustush is set as hympt, which is a Duat fiend. Remember the programs of the Egyptian heaven and hell. But mainly we are talking about what happens in this life. Plain set, scene instead of facade. We have Set of the West as demon of the West. That's one of the things we have ambiguous here. The word for power and the glyph for power doesn't necessarily mean God. It can mean other things too. We have Sut Na Shandu Wur Kst. Yet another form of Set, a plural. We see later in mythology this triple bit tail thing, either as a horn for anything from a Baphomet to Satan himself. We have Set as the protector of the backbone of Osiris. The demiurges serve roles for each other, right? Set as bull, the bull power that's a destroyer. We have Musut as children of Set. Yes, Satan has children. We have Sut Sabah or Sut Dua, and that's Mercury, and that's said to be the star or the planet of Set. Now, what significance does that hold? All this talk about Mercury retrograde, and if you don't know Mercury retrograde is going to be bad for you, or you don't know about it, and whether or not you have these beliefs, it's not going to do this stuff for you. So all this particular stuff about Mercury and astrology, and particularly it being a bad omen, that's straight from Set. We have Sut Haru, Kru, the heavenly and earthly devils of Set. So they're not just of this world and the sky, they're in the skies and beyond. We have Trutu, which is evil in serpent form. We have Set as a hippopotamus, or as the mark of a hippopotamus. Oh, hippopotamus. I didn't say that. Tenuous. And we have Kep as the crocodile of Set. So Set's in charge of a lot of spiritual animals. We have Sa'i or Simi, which is Set as Slayer, which makes a good name for a rock and roll band, doesn't it? We have Smee, which is the battle associates of Set. We have Satut is the binder. Remember all those spells, I bind you and all that stuff. Where do you think that comes from? We have Set as a demon of the third of the month. We have Sutyet or Sutut we have, oh, look at all those determinatives there. We have sit, and sit is the power of evil. We have ye as the Dwat fiend. Okay. We have meh. We have Babak Booy or Baba Booy or Say Tjmus Art Pa. Hundred? Oh, red-eared and doppled hound. So that downward-facing dog, that's what we're seeing here. But see, we have sort of a, spiritual hearing, recording sort of idea going on here. We have sit, ha. Remember the ha of eternity that we see in the Tetragrammaton in reference to Yahweh. Tries to kill all those who escape hell. So a temporary sojourn in hell is not the goal of Set here. We have Set her Tief. Tief. Oh, no, Tief. Set. Setim her Tief. And the fiery serpent of the fifth gate. Remember that talk about the 9 or the 10 gates. That's, but this is in Duat 3 or 4. We have Set Maharyth, and that's of Duat 3. We have Sata as the demon of fire, a Coptic name of the demon of fire. We have Satut there. But that's in a plural, a qualitative plural. We see qualitative plurals in reference to God, too. So Set is really a leader here. The heavenly dragger is Stub. And we have the Northland, or the lower, Ta'ue, or Ta, Sata, Sut. Ta'ue, Sut, or Sata, Set. So the Northland, land, foreign. The power of Set's grave. And we have Ya'it Te'u. And again, we have something in the plural here. We have Ju Wortenua, or Ju Wortenua. And that is the self-justifying Set, a high-end form of Set, obviously. Do, her. and that's a serpent. That we have the Drute, similar to the name for Thoth, but this is the power of evil here. And an interesting thing we have when we refer to the fire beings, they're referred to as invisible, they're referred to as fire beings, they're referred to by reference of snakes. Those are three combinations that you have in a lot of languages. We have Sutmer, so foreign lands and districts. All this talk here nowadays, all this anti-foreigner talk. So, somebody who's on behalf of the foreigners, somebody who cares about the rest of the world. That's important. Drew is one of the 42 forms. One of the 42 assessors, and that's in the 7th pylon of the Duat. And Kudpu is the dirty talking enemy. So, as far as a slayer, I've talked about it before, and I'm not going to say it in terms of whether or not it targets one group or another or less. Am I favoring my own people because they're less likely to engage in this? No, but the death penalty, things that would result in the death penalty, no, I'm not. And you can take that to mean my spiritual community, my subspecies, whatever. But when I support the death penalty is something that's needed for society. Now, I'm not going to be all draconian and say it, but it's only for a few things. The worst of the worst. And, of course, the level of treason that results in the worst of the worst, right? Perhaps we can put in a statute for some sort of some sort of high degree of torture or some extreme amount of crimes that have been committed that, okay, maybe we're going to treat them as bad as a murderer or something, right? So politics is really, really guided by the bad talking, the heaping slanders and the swearing and all sorts of, well, the swearing's not as acceptable, but it's starting to be acceptable. They're starting to have to censor even presidential candidates in the news. Okay. Jabaha Tufon is the Greek name, and that's as the supplier. But the self-justifying. We need to stop looking at social media and everything else and just say, hey, that possibly could be a... So, just like the triangular hill thing. So are we looking at signs in the heavens to rule our lives? Are other things to justify our lives? The idea of a figure that doesn't need anybody else's approval and just does what they think is right. That's how we become our higher selves. When we, if we respect the dead, if we respect those who could be dead, maybe we would want people to die in the best way. The respecting of the different parts of our country this division into North and South. Well, perhaps we got to look at different things, but this isn't working for us. Nuclear power, is it going to be clean and help the environment, or what are we burning, and what, we got to look at what we're burning and how. If we want to protect our land, certainly pollution is, the fifth gate, third and fourth, various things, but we need to pay attention to each aspect of path working. What if the fifth gate is one of the ears? Or what if the fifth gate is the nose? There's various things in life that we are not paying full attention to. Are we showing our character on the outside? Now, we have to be careful not to stereotype too much, but all this talk about the Duat, an important thing we can look about in the Duat is, we got to exist on different levels. So if these are spiritual realms for us to visit, through our spirituality and through our own dream, through the revealed and inspired religion, through our own dreams and art, the words that we use are a very essential thing, and we should not, if everything we say can be somehow in a spiritual context, that will better all of society. Politics is somewhere between polite and citizenship. So let's see what we can do about mixing those together. Now, these opponents, the 5 knives of the pillars stuck in the opponent. Now, are you going to be yourself? Are you going to bounce back and be who you're going to be in the presence of creed, prayer, charity, fasting, pilgrimage, and of course the continuation of the tale pointing towards marriage, which should be up to the spiritual groups anyways? Are we going to look at the leaders and support the leaders of our country, or hope that they fail? Are we going to be productive? Are we going to use our strength to tear down? We got to really consider these things. We got to really consider what goes on with our own children. Family should be the focus of this country, but we really don't talk as much of that as we would think. We have to be willing to go to the wars that will be of benefit to our souls and fight the spiritual battles as they come about. And respect to the heavens and the earth. I don't know what else that I have. The shadow. Let's end here on the shadow. And I haven't been as smooth in my talking as I might have otherwise been. But when we look at the shadow, it's not that, the shadow is the parts of ourselves that we don't like. There's parts of experience that we are afraid of or we're unfamiliar with. It's sort of the unknown. And some of that we should engage in. Now, that's not necessarily that we should be amoral or something. There are certainly things that we should bind, certainly things that we should oppose, certainly think of what you can do for your country, for the world. So, just like that figure of the 6 animals into sort of a human, that was popular for 17,000 years in Europe. How can we manifest in a polite way, in a way as a citizen, a jackal, a slooky dog, a fox, a donkey, a giraffe, an aardvark, and a human? Within ourselves and within society. In the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual way.